In this tutorial, we are going to talk about functions. So what is the function, first of all? So function or mapping is a special type of relation that maps every object in the domain to the one image in the codomain. So basically, function can be defined as a one-to-one or many-to-one relations. For instance, say we have relation R containing the following ordered pairs 1a, 2b, and 3c. So this relation is a function. So each element from the first set A has only one element, one image from the codomain B. So in order to make sure if we really have a function, so check to see if each x from the domain does not have multiple y's. So in other words, we have to have only one arrow coming from each element from A. Now, here another example. So relation 1 is a function. Again, each element 1, 5, 8 have one element in the range. Now, relation 2 is not a function. We have element 5 which has two different images. 5 has A and 5 has C as a image. Or if you look at the diagram, if an arrow diagram, so we have two arrows coming from same element 5. So we have two these divergent arrows. So 5A, 5 maps into A and 5 maps into C. So this is not a function. Now we're going to use the standard notation for functions. So f semicolon x small little arrow goes to y. So basically element x comes from the first set A from domain, element y belongs to the second set B. So we would say f maps x to y. More terminology, we would write f of x equals y. This is more standard typical function notation. So f is applied to x. So x also is called input, so what we put input in function. And y is an output, so what we will have as a result, as a value, so y value also that function spits out. So we would say f of x, f at x, or image of x under f, but f of x equals y, that's the typical saying of these functions. Now again, input or x value also it's called independent variable. X is independent. And what your function spits out, it's gonna be output, y value, or dependent variable. So y is dependent, x is independent. So one input value spits out one output. A quick summary, a function f from set A to set B is a rule that corresponds, so that assigns, associates, if you will, each element x in a set A precisely, exactly one element y in a set B. So consequently, this rule sets up a set of input-output ordered pairs of the form x comma y, so or y equals f of x. Now, how to evaluate a function at a given point. I think the best way to explain this is just have an example. Say we have a function f of x equals to x plus 1, very basic linear function. Now, how to evaluate this function at a value, let's say 3. All you want to do is just take this 3 and plug it into x into your function. So you want to substitute x with this 3. So in other words, you want to replace your x with 3. And you need to work out, so 2 times 3 plus 1. So you do this math, 2 times 3 is 6, plus 1 is gonna be 7. So the value of this function at the point 3 is 7. So 3 is input, 7 is output. Let's move on. Any letter followed by x could be used to symbolize a function. So you might know that commonly used and typically used letters like f of x, g, h. It could be again any letter. Sometimes we use capital letters like in the last examples to represent a function. So these different notations actually they mean the same function. So actually they denote the same function 2x plus 3. So depending on the problem, depending on the situation, so different notations can be used. And just y equals 2x plus 3, it's also very typical and standard notation for a function. So this is a linear function, by the way. So here's just various examples of functions. Y equals x minus 4, y equals x, y equals 7, f of x equals 5x plus 4, y equals 1 over x, kind of in reverse. Number 6 is a quadratic function, 2x squared plus 3x minus 1. G of x, number 7, negative x squared plus 3x. Again, this is quadratic. And number 8, y equals square root of x plus 1. This is a square root function. Now, there is a problem. Given that f maps x to 4x plus 3, find the image of 2 and the object of 6. Now, how to find the image of 2? So, all we need to do is just plug in 2 into the function. So, the image of 2 basically means that we have to evaluate our function at the point 2. So by plugging in this 2 into the function. So 4 times 2 plus 3. So you're gonna left with 11. So 8 plus 3, that's 11. So the image of 2 under this mapping is 11. Or the value of the function at 2. Now, letter B is the opposite, so we need to find the object of 6. What does it mean? That means that we are given an image, 6, and we need to find the corresponding object. So let's just put f of x equals 6, and instead of f of x, we are going to use the definition. So f of x is 4x plus 3. So 4x plus 3 we are going to set equals to 6. And we're going to solve this linear equation for x. It's a basic linear equation for x. So we do this math, subtract 3 from both sides. We will get 4x equals 3. And now we want to isolate our x. So by dividing this equation by 4, and you're going to left with x equals 3/4. That's going to be the object of 6 under this mapping. Now, given the function f of x equals 2x squared plus 3x minus 5, find the value of y if x equals 2. So, in order to do this, all we need to do is just take this 2 and plug it in for x everywhere x appears in the function. So f of 2 becomes 2 times 2 squared plus 3 times 2 minus 5. So it's going to be 8 plus 6 minus 5. And you're going to be left with 9.